Francisco, I think it's time. Let's start, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are you able to listen to me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you are watching us. And welcome everyone to today's webinar, the 12th webinar of this gene therapy webinar series. For me, it's a pleasure to be here and to be moderating this webinar. My name is Francisco Lopes, and I'm the Project Management Assistant of Capacity 2023 from the Coordination Institution, the University of Coimbra in Portugal. This series of webinars is organized by the Joint Clinical Research Center from Uganda under the Capacity 2023 grant, a project funded by the European Union under Global Health EDCTP3 program. Please note that this session is being recorded for dissemination purposes and that all invited speakers have given their consent for their talks to be recorded and shared. Just a disclaimer that the image and voice of the participants will not be recorded, only your questions. By remaining in this webinar, you acknowledge and agree to the recording. Please submit your questions at any time in the Q&A box, because there will be a 30 minutes Q&A session at the end of this session. And also you can use the chat to exchange comments or helpful resources with other attendees. We will launch a brief poll at the end of the session for you to help us evaluating this webinar. So today's webinar, the name is the Clinical Research of Gene Therapy Products, Regulatory Frameworks in Portugal and Uganda. Today, we will explore how two countries with different resources and regulatory histories are navigating the challenges and opportunities of gene therapy clinical research. You will hear two perspectives. From Portugal, represented by the University of Coimbra, with experience under an advanced European regulatory environment, we have Dr. Helena Henriques Antunes. She is an invited assistant researcher at CIBB, the Center for Innovative Biomedicine and Biotechnology, CNCUC, the Center for Neuroscience and Cell Biology, and also the GeneT, the Gene Therapy Center of Excellence at the University of Coimbra. She leads Quality Assurance and Regulatory Affairs Unit at GeneT, and she is also the project manager of Capacity Project. With 19 years of experience in biotechnology and 8 focused on ATMPs, she brings expertise in ATMP development, GMP operations, aseptic manufacturing, and regulatory strategy. Previously at STEMLab Advanced, she helped secure a GMP certification and also regulatory approvals for 2 investigational ATMPs. In 2023, she was recognized by the BioBoost Mentoring Program for her ATMP-driven venture, GAP Biomed. From Uganda, represented by the National Drug Authority, working within a rapidly evolving regulatory and biosafety framework, we have Dr. Helen Biomire Ndagije. She is a senior regulatory scientist with more than 20 years of experience in medicine regulation. As Director of Project Safety at the Uganda National Drug Authority, she leads National System for Pharmacovigilance, clinical trial oversight, medicines information, and the regulation of innovative medical products, including gene therapies. She has worked extensively with the World Health Organization on global benchmarking, regulatory capacity building, and expert groups focused on clinical trials and vaccine safety. Dr. Ndagije has contributed to regional harmonization efforts such as AVAREF and maintains strong ties with European regulatory science networks. She has also played a central role in shaping Uganda's regulatory framework for gene therapy products, bringing global standards into practical use for low and middle income countries. So both speakers are presented. It's now my pleasure to pass the word to our first speaker, Helena Henriques Antunes from the University of Coimbra. Helena, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Hello to everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'm happy to be here and I hope you enjoy this webinar. Let me start my presentation. Francisco, can you please confirm that it's all okay? Can you see the presentation?
No, not yet.
Thank you. Now I believe it is.
Yeah. Now we can see it. Thank you.
So, a good morning or afternoon to everybody, and let's start. First of all, I would like to show you some numbers regarding genetic and rare diseases. Uh, actual actual data. And is this to just to show you how important it is to develop solutions for this kind of diseases. In 5 to 10% of the babies are born with genetic or congenital disorder, and around 300,000 die per year. In total, in 2025, there were 1 in every 33 children affected with a genetic disease. And when we talk about rare diseases, it's important to say that 80% have a genetic cause. There are 7,000, as far as we know, different rare disorders. 95% doesn't have any therapy, and this affects 6% of the global population. Half of this population are in fact children. So we are facing a very high impact in children, and also it is well established that this impact is even higher in low-income regions. So it's important to go and develop a solution, and the gene therapy seems to be the best solution for this case. I would like to talk a little bit about the first clinical trial with gene therapy. It happened in 1990, and it was to tackle ADAS-Kit is like adenosine deaminase severe immunodeficiency. These patients do not produce this enzyme, adenosine deaminase, and therefore do not have a full developed immunitary system. In this particular case, I would like to talk to you about this history of Ashanti. Was a 4 years old girl. She had no solution for her disease, and she entered this, was the first patient to enter this clinical trial. The procedure seemed simple. The doctors isolated her T cells, insert the functional gene, and then reinfuse the T cells back to Ashanti. And in fact, it went very well, and the Ashanti was cured and lived a normal life. Now, the second clinical trial in the gene therapy was also for another rare disease and enzyme deficiency, ornithine transcarbamylase. This enzyme is important to degrade ammonia, and the lack of this enzyme leads to building up of ammonia, which will lead to severe brain damage and early death, usually as a child. In this case, I will address the 18 patients to enter this clinical trial. Jessel Gelsinger, this was a boy with 18 years old. He had only partial deficiency, but he decided to volunteer for the clinical trial as well to help the development of science and healthcare. And he was transfused with the OCT gene directly to the liver. That was the procedure for this clinical trial. Unfortunately, 4 days after the start of the treatment, he died with multiple organ failure, and the doctors think this was due to a severe immune response to the adenovirus vector. So this was like 9 years after the first clinical trial, and this was like an heads up to look further into the safety of gene therapies and the need to regulate this kind of therapies. So the scientific community, take a little step back, and also the regulatory community, and decided that no, gene therapies need to have specificities in terms of risks, in terms of the long-term and permanent effects that they have, and also ethical, environmental risks. And since most of the diseases are rare diseases, also they need special design of clinical trials. And sorry, this was additional to this. The World Health Organization is focused on providing guidelines to all the countries, and to harmonize these guidelines and regulations, which would be in terms of global impact of genetic disease, really important, because this harmonization will, at the end, accelerate the patient access to gene therapies and enhance the safety of these medicines. There is International Council for Harmonization that was initially created by the European, the American, and the Japanese regulatory agencies, EMA, FDA. For instance, EMA is already an example of a regional measure to harmonize regulations in all the European Union. And there are others initiatives like this, for instance, in Africa, where there is a project to constitute the African Medicine Agency. So in 2024, we have around 24 gene therapies products approved worldwide. But as you can see, their distribution is quite diverse. And we have here, of course, the countries with more evolved regulatory frameworks like the US, the European Union, and UK, with much more different gene therapies approved. This also is because they have specific procedures to help the industry. In this case, and the World Health Organization is issued some considerations in 2023, and the state was similar, and to alert to the challenges that the low and medium income countries faces, particularly in Africa, in terms of infrastructure and regulatory capacity, and although the major agencies were aligned, this was not translated to equitably assess. So we need more initiatives towards this. And here enters, for instance, the ADCTP. It's a program, the ADCTP3. It's a program that funds projects that aim to reduce the socio-economic impact of diseases in sub-Saharan Africa and also increase health security, not only in sub-Saharan Africa, but globally. And it's in this case, a way of strengthening the collaboration between Europe and African countries. And the project that we are talking here, Capacity to 2023, it's made of a consortium that unites Uganda, Tanzania, and Portugal in order to increase this regulatory capacity and strengthen the pharmacovigilance in the conduct of clinical trials with gene therapies, mainly in East Africa. This project is part of the Gene Therapy Center of Excellence ecosystem, and for that it has conditions to be differential. So now I think, and in order to do this analysis, I will present a little bit of our regulatory framework and pathways, and how you will see in the end we join this with the Uganda experience and push forward the clinical research of gene therapies. Portugal, as part of the European Union, follows EMA, not only guidelines, but regulations. And the gene therapies, also named as gene therapy medicinal products, falls under a special type of medicinal products that are considered advanced therapies within the medicines, and therefore have specific regulations and pathways due to their specificities. And this is important because this is a way that the EMA has to differentiate and also allow the development of this kind of therapies with the right orientation and the right regulation. So the first part in the regulatory pathway of a gene therapy, of course, it's to be considered advanced therapy medicinal product. This is according this is done at a central level by the Committee for Advanced Therapies at EMA. And then after this classification, of course, all the process goes the normal tramites for testing and clinical trials and validation. And the Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use will evaluate at the end this the product and the results of the testing. The authorization is issued by the European Commission, or in Portugal by Infarmed. And this is it's a little bit a look into the process in more particular. When we have when we are at the stage we want to go for a clinical trial, we have the product ready. This is all done in a centralized manner by the Clinical Trials Information System that is used in all European Union, and we enter the request for authorization of a clinical trial in this system, along with the documentation that is needed, the product dossier, the clinical trial protocol, the informed consent, and so on. We enter this in this system, and the validation of the documentation is the first step. And then there is the assessment in terms of ethics by the Portuguese ethical national council for ethics, and also our regulatory authorities in Farmed. This is the Portuguese regulatory authorities. It's important to say that this is a system where EMA is always involved, but the responsibilities in Portugal are from these two regulatory bodies. So in terms of ethics, the National Council for Ethics in clinical research, has to emit an opinion, and only if it's favorable, the clinical trial can go forward. The Farmed, at the same time, can look into the scientific and technical parts and regulatory parts of all the procedure, from the product to the clinical trial, and has to approve these parts. And once if the ethical opinion is favorable, Infarmed is responsible for giving the permission or the authorization to go forward with the clinical trial. Usually this takes 60 days, but depending on special circumstances, it can be 45 days, or if clarifications are required, it can be a little bit longer. I will not go into detail with this. The regulatory framework is quite similar between Europe and Portugal. It has to be like this, from medicines to advanced medicinal, advanced therapies, medicinal products, from manufacturing, clinical practices, personal data protection. This is all here, and we have to follow through these regulations. Also, we have to follow through the regulations, the general regulations for good practices, and specific regulations that is in this table on, I think you see it on the right, for gene therapies. This is due to the specificities of gene therapies, of course. This is just for you to have an idea. I will not present the regulations. I just want to end by telling you that also in this process there are adaptive and accelerated pathways, so a therapy can go further, or the access can be faster to the patient. It's for instance, marketing authorization can be issued under special conditions or special circumstances. You have also the hospital scheme exception. Is this for a particular patient that has an unmet need and there is an investigational product? It can be authorized its use by the regulatory authorities, of course. And when we are talking about orphan or rare disease, orphan medicines, here it's important to submit to orphan medicine designation. That is done by another committee of the EMA, the Committee for Orphan Medicine Products. And this status allows for instance, for the medicine to be administered as a compassionate use, or the conditional marketing authorization. And with this I finish the Portuguese pathway and all the adaptive and accelerated mechanisms that the European Union and our regulations have for us. And I will pass to Dr. Helen.
Thank you, Elena. I'll pass the floor now to Dr. Ellen.
Yes, thank you very much, Francesco. I hope that the slide is seen.
Yes, we can see. Yes, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, members. My name is, as I was introduced, Dr. Helen Dagje. I'm the Director for Product Safety responsible for regulation of clinical research, including gene therapies at the National Drug Authority in Uganda. And it's my pleasure to continue from where Helena stopped. So gene therapy research targets several diseases relevant to Uganda, such as sickle cell disease, the cancers such as the lymphomas, leukemia, and other inherited disorders. So as gene therapy continues to emerge globally, Uganda will require appropriate regulatory framework to evaluate its safety and efficacy and quality. So that will be the outline of my presentation. And I will talk about how we classify the gene therapies in Uganda, the ecosystem that is currently existing, the legal framework in place, and all applicable laws and guidelines. So gene therapies are classified as drugs in the current framework. As you saw from Helena's presentation, there is a specific gene therapy, but for Uganda, we classify it under any substance or preparation used or intended to be used for internal or external application to the human body, either in the treatment or prevention of disease or for improving physiological functions. And that is what is stated in the current Act, Chapter 198 of the Uganda laws. However, there is a definition, a draft definition in the upcoming national guidelines for gene and stem cell therapy research and development that we are developing again with capacity under this project in collaboration with the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology. As gene therapy refers to the process of introduction, removal or changing the content of an individual's genetic material with the goal of diagnosing, preventing, and/or treating a disease. This is where that gene therapy will now be operational. The key actors mainly are the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, the National Drug Authority, we have the Environmental Management Authority, we have also the National Health Research Organization. And under the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, we have a number of bodies that also help with, according to the new guideline, that will be participating in this regulation of stem cell and gene therapy. So it is the research ethics committees, which are mainly at institutional levels in different hospitals. Then we have the national Biosafety Committee, which is mandated under the Act of the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology to for various functions in the oversight of gene therapy research. And we also have the institutional biosafety committees. I'll elaborate further with the legal frameworks. The Uganda National Council for Science and Technology Act, Chapter 211 of the Uganda laws, under Section 4, Part D, the mandate for UNCST is defined as to act as a clearinghouse for information on research. And also another section or function that relates with Uganda National Science and Technology for this gene therapy is to establish specialized committees, research councils, and organizations, of course, to deal with the research, all emerging research. It was designed in such a way as to give room for being able to capture new areas of regulation as they come along, but it's now also being about to be revised. They, similarly to the CAP 198 of the National Drug Authority Act, we have Section 40 that says no person may carry out any clinical trial in respect of any drug unless he or she is in possession of a certificate issued by the authority. And from this, we have a number of regulations. And one of the regulations is the one responsible for conduct of clinical trials, amended as in 2024. So in this, we have requirements for the application and authorization of the clinical trial. We also have amendments to the conditions of the clinical trial. We have protection of participants. And another section that applies to gene therapy research is the responsibilities for the sponsors and for the investigators, monitoring of adverse events and reporting them, and also the inspection of clinical trials. Those are the main things that we were able to pick up from the legal framework. For the National Health Research Organization, it appraises scientifically and ethically in collaboration with the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, all research protocols related to health. But it's also one of the major organizations that the government uses to to translate research into practice and also to disseminate that research to the intended stakeholders. Then we have the National Environment Act, Chapter 181 of the Uganda laws. Section 9 says the mandate and functions of this authority is to review and make decisions on environmental impact assessments. So the other area maybe to note here is that Uganda committed to the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, to the Convention on Biological Diversity, and this is, it means it's a signatory to international agreements to ensure that these products are safely handled, transported, and as well cater for the use of living modified organisms resulting from modern biotechnology. There is a historical act that was approved. It's an act. I said it may be confusing because you have an act and a draft in the brackets. But this Genetic Engineering Regulatory Act speaks the fact that there's a lot of stakeholders, maybe in Uganda, do not agree, as you can see, even in the definition, what exactly this genetic engineering, they're very sensitive about it. So this act was initially passed, but the president did not assent to it. So we have it since 2018, well, it's there in place, but it has not been implemented. So it's an act to regulate genetic engineering activities and facilitate safe development, transfer, and utilization of genetically engineered materials. I talked earlier about the National Biosafety Committee. It is established under the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, and it has 9 members drawn from different diverse fields of science and technology, from universities, regulatory agencies, government ministries, private sector, civil society, and they meet once every 2 months throughout the year to attend to different biosafety matters. And I forgot to mention that the GERA Act, or Genetic Engineering Act, also gave birth, or out of it arose a bill now, which is called the Biosafety Bill, for just those used in medicine. Maybe the other one was too general. So the main responsibilities, again, of the National Biosafety Committee is to ensure that research, product development, and general release of genetically engineered organisms are done in a manner that is safe to humans and the environment. And specifically, it reviews applications and inspects projects involving genetically engineered organisms. It educates the public on biosafety procedures, and it advises on transboundary movement of genetically engineered organisms, and advises the National Council for Science and Technology on any other biosafety related matters, among other roles and responsibilities. So in terms of approval for someone who develops a gene therapy research product, the gene therapy research will undergo the joint scientific and ethical review pathway. This is JOSA. This pathway is to optimize the review timelines and also leverages combined expertise of the regulators and ethics committees, because many times these may be lacking in the different institutions, since this is a new area. Then the principal investigator also makes a request to the JOSA, to this committee, and through the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, which is a secretariat, and this Council for Science and Technology convenes reviewers and coordinates the joint review process. However, it does not replace the regulatory oversight processes. Each and every regulator involved in the JOSA goes back and must receive the application, but the review process, the review timeline is shortened, and the investigators must seek the approval from the relevant bodies. This is how the joint scientific process works. You get your submission to the committee, and then you have pre-screening of the documents by the national regulatory authorities, and also at the same time the reviewers are identified, and the communication is made to the principal investigator. There is a payment of fees that is involved, and after the review, still a communication is done to the principal investigator, and to the outcome to the principal investigator. Then the review of the committee members, and then communication again to the PI, and also the principal investigator that receives that communication, of course, as through the UNCST and the Uganda National Health Research Organization, and also gets another communication if it is involving a drug, of course, in this case, through the NDA. And this process, of course, normally takes a much shorter time. And the clinical trial process for National Drug Authority, normally for new products, like most gene therapy products will be, most likely we'll start with a pre-submission meeting so that it helps both the regulator and the person who was the applicant to understand their product better. And when this product is better understood by the regulator, the process is also facilitated to be maybe shorter, more efficient. So from the pre-submission meeting, this is quite optional. And from the pre-submission meeting, there's a receipt of the complete clinical trial application, and that is the portal from where you can apply. And then is screening, and that is followed by an acknowledgement of receipt to the applicant. And then we undergo through the scientific evaluation, the full evaluation at the National Drug Authority, and following which there could be either approval or rejection, or maybe in the process, queries raised. And if approved, the clinical trial certificate is issued, and what follows may be importation or manufacture of the INP, and then the study of the investigation medicinal product, and then you would have the study start. Sometimes there's a pre-inspection, but however, most of the inspections we do is when we have authorized, we review the paperwork, and then we have annual renewals. At the time of annual renewals, we may conduct a visit. And there's amendments. There is the actual GCP inspections of different clinical trial sites, and then we also receive safety reports on an ongoing basis from whoever is doing the study, the principal investigator. So there is the routine review of the clinical trial application that is up to the point of approval. It takes 50 working days. There is, however, also a fast-track review process in which it can take 30 working days. And generally, it is to be noted that we operate on a stop clock mechanism. If the application goes to the applicant, the clock stops and it resumes when it's returned. That is especially when there are queries. In terms of other applicable laws and guidelines, we have the laws. We have the Data Protection and Privacy Act. Of course, gene therapy being toward something that is tending towards individualized medicine, and all there's confidentiality and others. Basically, for healthcare, data protection is paramount, and the law is there. And then we also have another law for Traditional and Complementary Medicines Act, in case you're using herbal medicine. And then we have the Public Health Act is also applicable here. And also the Human Organ Donation and Transplant Act, and also the Electronic Transactions Act. So the other national guidelines that are applicable at the moment, we have national guidelines for research involving humans as research participants. We also have guidelines for the conduct of clinical trials in Uganda. I had earlier talked about this. Apart from those, we have good manufacturing practice for medicinal products. We have guidelines on importation and exportation of drugs. We have guidelines for the provision of insurance cover for research participants. And since this is a new area, not well understood by many, the risks are not very well understood by the insurance company in the area, especially of clinical trials. It's important to, when an applicant comes, to clearly understand in advance. So there are also guidelines on registration of biotherapeutics, in which the drug of gene therapy falls. And then there is national guidelines for JOSA, and also the draft national guidelines for gene and stem cell therapy and research and development, also really still under development. So with this, I'd like to have a small comparison between Portugal and Uganda. From Portugal, from Helena's presentation, we noted that the gene therapies are grouped under advanced therapy medicinal products, of course, grouped under the medicines. For us, it's still really a real comparison. Still, no further guidelines have been developed, so there's no further classification other than just the drug and these or medicines. So then in terms of the review process, in Portugal, the regulatory review process is centralized through the CTIS, the Clinical Trial Information System. And in Uganda, the regulatory review follows the National Joint Scientific and Ethical Review process. Then for the regulatory bodies involved in Portugal, of course, InfraMed is number one. There's also CAIC, there's CNPD, there's APA, there's DGAV, and the institutional ethics committees. Is the EMA, of course, that Helena talked about, where we have all these different committees, CAT, CHMP, we have PRAC for pharmacovigilance, COMP, and the pediatric one. So a number of technical committees that are involved in this, I think, depending on the product that is being developed. So for the Ugandan side, we have the National Drug Authority and also the other regulators, UNCST, UNRO, the Environmental Authority, and the National Biosafety Committee, the Institutional Biosafety Committees, and the Research Ethics Committees. Which also have a forum in which they are accredited in the different institutions by Uganda National Council for Science and Technologies. And the chairpersons of this Research Ethics Committee have a regular forum where they meet and also peer review each other's actions and also improve on operations and report to each other and give each other updates. So in Portugal, we have the general provisions for clinical research, which are present. We have the specific provisions, which Helena highlighted on the slide. So those legal provisions in Uganda are still, and guidelines in Uganda are still generally at the general level. There are some specific ones being developed, but we expect that maybe with time, even maybe we'll have probably after the new bill that is being discussed and finalized now, which is under Parliament, maybe we shall have new regulations and guidelines specific for gene therapy. So the key takeaways here is that existing foundation, Uganda already has core oversight structures that can support gene therapy research, and there is need for specialized pathways such as ATMP classification, as in Portugal. We look forward to that, and we hope that this can provide a clearer and more efficient regulation. In terms of institutional coordination, the effective oversight of gene therapy research requires collaboration between regulators and biosafety authorities and other key stakeholders. For regulatory guidance, specific gene therapy research guidance will improve Uganda's regulatory preparedness as these technologies emerge. Now back to the consortium under the project in which we are, the Consortium for Developing Regulatory Capacity for Clinical Trials using Gene Therapy Products and Strengthening Pharmacovigilance in the Conduct of Clinical Trials in East Africa. We are grateful to the European Union EDCTP project, and also all our partners, who I mentioned, who I highlighted on the first slide. Of course, my co-presenter today, and then the Infamed and JCRC. I don't want to leave out anyone, so I just refer myself to the initial slide which I had on my on the presentation that maybe Helena made. So I'd really like to acknowledge their input and also to summarize that this is what the project is about. In terms of regulation, is to set up frameworks for regulatory oversight of clinical trials using gene and cell-based therapy products in sub-Saharan Africa, which it has done very well in Uganda and in Tanzania, but we know from our discussions and interactions with other countries that this is something that is also like it's really emerging, and other countries are also interested in improving their oversight of clinical trials using gene and cell-based therapy. And also safety monitoring in clinical trials in the region is to be improved under this project. And this project also has a component of training where workshops have been developed and more are to come to develop workshops and courses on gene therapy products to build capacity among the researchers, regulators, and the public. And also now the last thing is to sensitize. This project is about sensitizing the investigators, the sponsors, and engaging policymakers on the requisite health system reforms to create a safe environment for the conduct of clinical trials. Of course, the public is quite concerned. As I gave you an example for Uganda, there's even an act on the shelf to show that when it's not very clear for people, they will stop it. They don't want to get engaged, especially when it comes to the genes and human beings. It's quite a sensitive topic, especially in Africa. So I'd like to thank you very much. Over.
So thank you very much, Dr. Ellen. Thank you very much for both of you for your presentations. Before we start the Q&A session, you already see maybe that we have our evaluation feedback form, so please fill it out for us to have a consistent evaluation of this webinar and to improve the next ones. So I'm going to start with the first question that we have it in our Q&A. So I think both of you can answer the questions, but maybe there are some questions that are more specific to one of you, so you can answer that. So the first question is, gene therapies are often extremely expensive. What regulatory or policy strategies could Uganda use to ensure equitable access once these therapies become available? So Dr. Sisi already gave some input. We have to be engaged in the development to ensure we have cost-effective products for your populations, but we want to know your opinion about that. So do you want for me to read all the questions and then you answer at the end, or do you want to answer each question separately? Dr. Elena and Dr. Ellen, what do you think? What do you prefer?
I think best to address every question separately, as you are proposing. I think this first one was for Dr. Ellen.
Yeah, but I think Dr. Sisi adequately covered it, that we have to participate in the process of development right from the word go, because everybody needs those gene therapies, and we cannot wait until the pipeline is finished for us to start engaging.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on. Dr. Cici asks, as Portugal links to EMA, how does Uganda link to African Medicines Agency or AVREF? So do you want to answer it now or shall we
Yeah,
move on?
I can answer
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yes, indeed, Uganda is linking already to the African Medicines Agency. And of course, with time, I think that the African Medicines Agency has just been like last year established. At least when the seat of the Director General, and we're already linking one-on-one, but the Director General also hopes to come over to Uganda to maybe have a session and with researchers, with different kind of stakeholders, so that people will understand the value of AMA to the country. So this is something that is in the plan, it is in the offing, and we hope that we shall be able to invite different stakeholders to contribute to this important discussion. So the answers are not all with us. I'm sure that they will also have to give us what their plans are, and we shall engage, but we're already engaging we have already reached out to the AMA to have a maiden visit where we'll discuss a number of areas of importance, of joint importance. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Allen. Moving on to the next questions from Adrian Wright. Is the expectation that cell and gene therapy products scheduled for any future clinical trials needed for approval in East Africa would need a dual approval pathway through the local regulations of local Ministry of Health as the National Health Authority and the newly formed Africa Medicines Agency?
Yes, I'm not very sure that I have understood the question well, but from what I know, that the African Medicines Agency is not going to be a regulator, and it will be supported, or decisions will be made directly by the countries themselves. It can make recommendations the way WHO works or EMA works. It can make recommendations that will make it easier for the countries, especially that may not have as much capacity, to be able to, in a safe space, take up recommendations by other regulators to inform their regulatory decisions. So I think that as an agency, it's not over any country, but it is just providing that collective voice and advocacy for the different countries to other continents.
Okay, so thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. So if any of these previous questions are not fully answered, you can rewrite your question to the speaker's answer well or better your questions. So moving on to some questions from Dr. Cici. In the past, our countries have waited for new products to undergo phase 1 elsewhere before being evaluated here. What are your comments, especially for products that we develop locally, for having phase 1 trials in our context?
Having phase 1 trials being conducted in Uganda is possible. And for these gene therapy products, it will even be more possible, because there will be some products that will involve like not massive manufacturing, but bedside manufacturing. So I think that phase 1 can be done and will be done, and a lot of capacity is being developed by the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation. A lot of resources are being pumped into developing the initial centralized like maybe laboratories or maybe animal models or whatever that is needed for those early phase trials, to sort of do them not on an individual basis, but to provide a centralized way in which to be able to address this. So we are working closely to see how that will turn out. But yes, that is the plan. It's not easy. It has not been easy to come to that stage, because most of the trials that are brought or that are done in Uganda could be late stage, but not right now, especially dealing with herbal medicine and now vaccine for veterinary medicine for animals. We already have some products, so I'm sure that also for human medicine there will soon be vaccines on the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, I think we can merge these two questions. For Ellen, what are the regulatory requirements for follow-up of participants in gene therapy trials? And what can Uganda adopt from Portugal EMA so we do not invent the wheel from scratch?
Well, I cannot mention all the guidelines for follow-up of participants, or requirements for follow-up for participants in follow-up of participants in gene for handling or using gene therapy, because there is a guideline already, maybe more than 100 pages long, defining the use of gene therapy products. So what I want to assure you is that they are there, and they have been considered between the National Council for Science and Technology, who has been leading the process, and the Uganda National Council for and the National Drug Authority, and other experts that have been engaged in drafting the initial guideline. And we hope that even from Portugal, our colleagues in Portugal will help us to review this guideline after we have done our initial review, and on the documents, we are going to share it with them so that they can maybe ask relevant questions to help us to understand how to better implement, so that we can learn from their experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is also from Dr. Sisi. Gene therapy, unless in vivo, requires local manufacturing. Are there processes to approve facilities for local production and monitor production?
Right now, all those are still under development, but yes, there will be there's capacity being grown to be able to support local manufacturing facilities for gene therapy products, because we know very well that the equipment is quite expensive, and well, we need to build that capacity. Yeah, but as I said, this is difficult to build the capacity when the law is not in place. We are finalizing the law and the regulations, and well, I can say we're doing all in parallel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next question is from Benjamin Bakehena. Does it mean that for any clinical trial on cell and gene therapy, the study has to be reviewed initially by JOSER, which determines progress to UNCSD and/or NDA? Also, does this somehow have influence on other non-clinical trial studies? For instance, basic studies attached to nested in these cell and gene therapy clinical trials. Please clarify on this, Dr. Helen.
Yes, at the moment, since we do not have a law, we are just using those guidelines that we are developing for, okay, the guidelines in place mention JOSA, And that is what we are following right now. But if the law is passed tomorrow, then things will definitely change. There will be more specific guidelines to deal with and regulations to deal with gene therapy per se.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. So we have another question from Adrian Wright. I understand that there are already initiatives for drug regulatory intergroup discussions and coordination between Portugal and Uganda, for example. But is there actual harmonization meetings taking place to better coordinated, efficient regulatory oversight of multi-regional trials, including East Africa, but under US FDA, EU EMA, UK MHRA jurisdictions?
Right now, no, we've had a meeting before where we had contributions from the World Health Organization especially, and other regulators that like you're mentioning. But when you just have guidelines, they are not enforceable. What is enforceable is the law. So we are looking forward to the law. That's why I'm fronting the law. But they work within the region. Of course, on this project, we are working with Tanzania. And we hope that with time, of course, to connect with the African Medicines Agency. African Medicines Agency works through regional economic blocks or regional certain regions that like you've heard of ESC, ECOWAS, Zazibona, different groupings of countries. So these are in these countries, I think it's how it can be more feasible to reach out to help the countries or to work with the countries. So in this, of course, ESC, we already have 2 countries that is working or speaking the language of gene therapy. I'm sure that also other countries, especially, I know that South Africa also has some discussions ongoing. So I think that with time, the continent will be well lit, or well, the whole gene therapy, regulation of gene therapy will be more well understood. But there has to be someone to take the first step, and Uganda has one of those countries that has taken the first step.
Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next question from Brian Odong. Thanks for the great presentations. According to Ugandan guidelines, how would you classify stem cell therapy, biological product, or experimental medicine? Under which jurisdiction would it be administered?
It is a drug. It is a biological product. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a more direct question. So the next question is from Timothy Lumu. How is the NDA prepared to do validation, infrastructure, and training of the product safety, especially maintaining efficacy given the high specificity of the products in question? Are they also scaling alongside JCRC, or does the African Medicines have partnerships to do this?
The African Medicines Agency is just settling in. The first issues is not gene therapy, it is access to medicine. So for us, we're at different levels. So we thank even the JCRC because they have been really a strong partner in coming up, especially with this when we're working on this partnership on the project. We've worked really hand in hand in terms of exchange of ideas, in terms of really building the whole ecosystem. I think they've played a big hand in this. So I think that for the African Medicines Agency, they'll get to that step, because right now, even when it comes to manufacturing, say the GMP working groups or the ones for pharmacovigilance, these are there, but they are also just still developing, and it will take some time for them to get to that level. But we cannot wait until they have reached a point where they're able to reach out to us. So maybe we can always, after we develop something, East Africa can reach out to them and propose how we can help other countries or how they can join in such an initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think it's going to be the last question, but if the participants have more questions, you can ask in the Q&A session. So the last question that we have here from Amon Gumoshabe: what's the perception of the population and legislatures toward gene therapy development in Uganda?
Of course, it's not, I don't even know whether I can provide a perception, but it's not, gene therapy is not well understood by the population, let alone by maybe the regulators. Okay, yes, we are talking about the legislators, but it's a new concept, and it's really not well understood, but it, like I said, changes the whole paradigm of things. We are practicing, of course, quite effective in sickle cell therapy, but this is only in a very few places in Uganda, even. Also in TZ, I would say the same thing. So in terms of understanding of the process by different stakeholders, there will have to be a concerted effort by government, by whoever, to educate the public about what is what is gene therapy and its benefits, and differentiate it from the different kinds of genetic engineering, because we have also people of agriculture. I talked about the environment. There are so many other stakeholders involved, but yes, gene therapy will have to come a long way to be well understood in terms of awareness by the general population and for the legislators, the lawmakers. Thank you.
I
Thank you
just
very much.
wanted
Yeah.
to thank you to add to Dr. Ellen response, is that here in Portugal, of course, the perception now is different because we are in a different state, and there are many, in terms of regulatories and legislators, there are many institutions involved. It's an area that is being discussed for decades, several of years, but for the normal population, it's the same as Dr. Helen was saying. It's not so clear what is gene therapy, and the population sometimes that was fear a little bit everything that has to be with changing genes. So this is also, just to wrap up, one of the main objectives of capacity, where it is not only to, and as Dr. Ellen presented, not only giving training to the experts and the clinicians that are working with the patients, but also to the population, that we have initiatives like this and the others to reach out and to be present and near the population, and also until now, and both in Uganda and Tanzania, they have been several efforts to integrate and to network with legal authorities This would be one of the good and major results of this project, and we are all together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your answers. Just to add in this question that under this project, this capacity project, the UNCST also did a knowledge and perception study, specifically in population and in some legislatures. So there was also a very good conclusions from this study regarding these knowledge and perception studies. So we have more questions here. We still have time, so I will continue. Um, from Benjamin Bacahena, just like GMOs, our MPs don't understand cell and gene therapy. So this is not just this is not a question. It's more like an affirmation. So I don't know if you have any comments about that.
No,
I
not
don't
really,
understand.
but just okay. But
Yeah.
just to say that even one of the other efforts that we are that we have as part of capacity is to develop curriculum even for the training, so that it's really a topic that is well understood right from school time for the medical professionals.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So moving on to the next question from Alex Taukisi. Research capacity of this kind necessitates many scientists partaking part, and this involves scholars, especially at PhD level. Are there clear programs to incorporate them in this groundbreaking initiative? So it's a good question. Do you have any comments on that?
Maybe I'll ask the project coordinator to tell us.
Yeah,
No, the funds were limited, and I think this is something that
yeah,
maybe for future, if we're still going on with this work, it's something that we can consider. It's really important.
yeah, indeed. So thank you very much. So moving on to the next question from Elvis Miti. Is there any gene therapy policy in Tanzania by now? So I don't know if you are able to answer this question.
Actually, I don't think that either of us are able and ability to answer this question, because it's specific from Tanzania. We have in our consortium the Muhimbili University for Health and Allied Sciences, but no regulatory authority. So I don't have a reply for this question that I would be comfortable giving. It should come from Tanzania. I don't know if Dr. Helen, due to the proximity, has any more information, but it's not. It's a difficult question to answer.
Okay. So thank you very much for your comments on that. So I think the last question that we have here by now is from Benjamin Bacahena. Therefore, what simple steps should be done to improve the perception of the population and legislatures towards gene therapy development, and who should be involved and at what level? So,
Yeah, of course, the simple steps is really talking about this, especially for on social media, and talking about having short audios, videos, explaining what gene therapy is about. But as I told you, it's difficult to start engaging on the topic when you don't even have like the legal framework. But when this is passed, it's easy to have a basis for you to, because even right now, we have not finalized or agreed on the definition of gene therapy. So if you start educating, you may confuse the people. I think it's a bit too early for the for going out. But once we have agreed on the major structure, and the law, the structure for regulating of these products, and also held public debates to discuss or allay people's fears about modification of genes. I think it will be then in the public interest to go out and run a campaign to disseminate it on frequently answered questions on our websites, on social media, possibly in the newspapers. And before, also JCRC has held some informative symposia. Yeah, we could have these on a regular basis. I think these are the practical steps that we can take.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your answer. Dr. Sisi already talked a little bit about that also, saying that there are other initiatives in grant providing training for masters and PhDs. Other training opportunities include these webinars, journal clubs that we have set up, and seminar series offered at JCRC. And also Muhaz has developed a curriculum that we hope to incorporate in the MUST and Macarere training. So to add to these questions, to these last questions. So I think we don't have any further question. I don't know if anyone has anything to say, but if not, I want to thank you all for your presence here. Thank you to the speakers for your presentations, and see you in the next webinar. So stay tuned in our website, in the JCRC's communications to see what is the next webinar team and when and where is it. So thank you very much to everyone. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Thank you, Dr. Elena and Dr. Ellen, and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Francisco, for the nice presentation, and thanks to everyone that was watching this webinar. And thank you, Dr. Helen, for making me company as presented.
Okay, thank you very much too.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank all the JCRC team that makes this webinar possible, and that we reach you, and it's the work behind the cameras. Thank you all, and have a good rest of the day.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sisi and team.